To truly master Kung Fu, you must find peace. Peace with your family.
Peace and my family don't really go together.
Golden Child's back, baby!
I don't think I'm gonna go to law school anymore.
Walk in like a boss where my money at.
You've been training since you got back?
Does fighting gangsters count? Thanks for the assist. You're a Kung Fu butt-kicking hero?
On the A-list, you will see.
There's a girl. She's in trouble. I stepped in.
Stepped in?
More like punch and kick.
I've lived for this stuff.
You took down an army by yourself.
You basically walked on air.
It was physics. This is what I meant to do.
Aloha. This is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best TV show reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man, here in Hawaii. And just recently, on the CW, the Berlanti-verse, who has done the, Greg Berlanti, who has done on the CW, the Arrow show, Flash, Supergirl, the new Superman show, Black Lightning, Legends of Tomorrow, and also Stargirl. Not to mention many, many other shows on CBS, such as The Blind Spot, has now put out a new TV show, 2 episodes of which have aired, called Kung Fu. And, well, without further ado, remember our rating scale. Shaka thumbs up, it's good to see, I recommend it. Shaka thumbs down, it's bad to see, it's junk, I don't recommend it. And for Kung Fu, based on the 70s hit TV show starring David Carradine, and later a sequel television show also starring David Carradine in the mid-90s called The Adventures of Kung Fu, The Legend Continues. This Kung Fu is a Shaka thumbs down. So remember, Shaka thumbs down is it's junk. I don't recommend it. And, well, it is a Shaka thumbs down. I can't fully recommend this show. Now, this stars a whole host, and I'll put up all the names right here, a whole host of new actors and actresses, along with one, I believe, Tony Chung, I believe, this guy, who has been in multiple movies, television shows, always pretty much starring as a father. I believe he was the father in the last Mulan movie that Disney just put out back in December. Now, that being said, he is, of course, good. He has yet, in these last 2 episodes, had really anything to do. Mainly it focuses on our David Carradine-like character, the young woman, his daughter, his oldest daughter. Apparently her mother had sent her to China to find a man, kind of a do this dating thing, so that she could marry a young Chinese man in China. So under the guise of a cultural tour or program that she was going, her mother actually set her up with who she wanted her to marry. And we see in the pilot, all this is in the pilot, the very first 1-hour episode. And she is, basically, she is averse to that. She has a highly boyfriend back in San Francisco. All this is filmed in Vancouver. And if you look close and are familiar with Vancouver, which many of us are after all of these shows of the Arrowverse, you can kind of pick out what is and what isn't, San Francisco. And basically, you can tell this is Vancouver, as most of the buildings don't look anything like San Francisco. They do the traditional shot of the Golden Gate Bridge, of course, so that, see, it's Frisco. But no, it's not. And I think that really hurts the show. I know that most of the shows that, the Berlanti-verse for the DC superhero shows are all done in the dark, mostly. So it's really hard to tell. But this is, filmed during the day, and you can tell that many of the scenes are not in San Francisco. Again, filmed all around Vancouver in Canada, where most of these CW shows are filmed just because of cost effectiveness. But yes, so she runs away and joins this monastery in China, where she lives there for 3 years, learning martial arts. Basically, I guess Kung Fu, from her Sifu, her master, the master monk, who is also a woman, and it turns out to be a female monastery. For 3 years, there's no, China doesn't send out anybody to look for her. I guess her parents don't look for her because she never comes home for 3 years, even though they know she didn't get married to this guy. They seem very unconcerned, her parents. But I guess if they were, sent her to China to get married, maybe they didn't really care about her after all. I guess they really hated her white boyfriend that she had in San Francisco. But I guess, I don't know. I mean, I'm talking as a Caucasian male here, where, maybe not truly traditional arranged marriages take place, but as we have seen in many other shows and movies, especially with elder Asian parents, they want their daughters or their sons to marry a nice, Asian woman or man. So, this is very stereotypical, and it follows that same suit. But in these 3 years, this young woman masters Kung Fu, or pretty much masters Kung Fu, whereas, at least in the David Carradine tradition and TV show, it took him from when he was a little kid to master the martial arts as well as he did. Now, and of course, they're not saying that she is a master per se, but she is the only one that seems to survive this attack at the temple, where the temple is attacked. We later find out in episode 2 that it was the female master's sister, and a magical or a legendary sword was stolen. Think the Green Destiny, essentially, from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And that legend has it that this sword is one of 8 magical weapons that, when all combined, will become a weapon that will grant its user invincible and will be able to do anything, I guess, be unstoppable. The user who wields all 8 weapons will be unstoppable. So, although this young woman is able to repel most of the attackers, when it comes to the master's sister, she is defeated and the sword is taken. The monastery, a la, what was that, The Last Jedi, or The Force Awakens, or whatever the last Star Wars movie was, the temple is burnt to the ground and destroyed. Her master is dead, and with nowhere else to go, she returns home to San Francisco and her parents, and thus she is going to live there and plan her master's sister. And that's where she discovers that there are 8 legendary magical weapons that her sister is looking for. I guess around the world, because at the end of episode 2, we see that woman, the villainess, in Singapore about to kidnap a professor who has knowledge of these 8 weapons, or the remaining 7, most likely their location. Now, I give this a Shaka thumbs down. Again, just because the story is so unbelievable. And at the very least, with the David Carradine original Kung Fu, there was an air of realism with that. It was molded and based in reality. Even in the 90s, when he did the more magical, they leaned towards more the mythical and magical aspects of Kung Fu. You know, David Carradine would shoot fire from his hands, do masterful illusions, etc. In the 90s, Kung Fu, the adventure continues. You know, that was still kind of sort of based in reality, because his son was a police detective, and that detective aspect is kind of where they took the show mostly, and then some mystical bad guy would rise up, and then David Carradine, the cop's father, would have to come and save him using the mystical Kung Fu actions that became the staple in the 90s. Apparently, this new Kung Fu version kind of attempts to meld the two of them together. These legendary magical weapons that the person that we have, that this villainess, the monk's sister, the head monk's sister, is attempting to collect to who knows what, maybe take over the world, apparently. And the young hero has to rise up to stop her, the only one who can stop her, with maybe help from her friends and family back in San Francisco, giving her information. And in between, for filler episodes, she just happens to solve general crimes, street-level crimes, gang violence, intervention there on the streets, using her Kung Fu when she's not taking on the head villainess and trying to prevent them from stealing these magical weapons. So I guess it is a serious Shaka thumbs down for the pilot. Based on the pilot alone, where I've just described that to you, where we only see like a montage of her training within that entire 3 years, where they're all wearing red robes. So again, it's a very trope of Mulan. Looks kind of ridiculous like that, but that's what they lean towards. And again, the mystical and the magical aspect of the weapons. And just the unrealistic idea that she has, maybe she's not a master of Kung Fu, but she's definitely got some powers and abilities trained from her within only these last 3 years at the temple where she studied with her Sifu, her master, who was killed. And I'm sure that will, play more as the series continues. But again, how this got picked up off of the pilot, I don't know, because watching the pilot was god-awful and a Shaka thumbs down. Now, I did see episode 2, and I will be continuing this show. I will probably not do an episode-to-episode breakdown, because I don't think this show is going to go past the first season and maybe the second season, just because I think the CW, losing most of its superhero shows, needs something. So I think they're going to try to at least push into season 2 with this show. Hopefully it gets better. But episode 2 of season 1 was much better than the pilot. But again, that was all just grounded into a street level crime kind of street detective show. a la, you know, Sisters of the Dragon from Iron Fist kind of a scenario. Which is, I think, if they had leaned more into the pilots, you know, I probably would have gave it a passing Shaka thumbs up. But again, right now, overall for the series, a Shaka thumbs down. I will, being the masochist that I am, continue to watch it to see if it improves and gets any better. But if you're watching something else right now and not really, well, I don't know, if you had any desire to watch this show based on the old, you know, Bruce Lee concept of David Carradine in Kung Fu, either one from the 90s or the 70s, you will be very, very disappointed with this show, as it does not live up to any inkling of its past greatness of Kung Fu, which it was. So, yeah, that's it. I can't say anything more about that than that. I mean, only I believe Tony Chung, this guy, and his son, played by this guy, are decent or good enough actors to be in this show, to carry a whole show, but they only have bit parts, as the star is, of course, her, you know, the David Carradine character. Yet, so far, they, you know, even as she's the star and they show her struggle, she's not really, you know, she seems really lost in this role. I've never seen this actress before. This is probably her big break, and I'm sorry to say that the writing is, you know, is failing her and not doing her any justice to want people to continue to watch. Again, that being said, as a masochist, I will continue to watch the show to hope that it gets better, and if it does, I will let you know. But, you know, it wasn't hard for episode 2 to be better than episode 1, the pilot. But even that being said, it's still, again, a Shaka thumbs down for the new Kung Fu show on the CW. Sorry to say that. Sorry to admit it. I was looking forward to this, having seen the previews for the last couple of months. So, yeah, I don't know. All right. Thank you so much. This is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man, giving Kung Fu, the new CW show, a Shaka thumbs down. Thank you, and aloha.